Hello everybody, at Stone Monk Gamer here. I'm creating this video in response to a couple of things actually. When doing the weekly topic, things to do to start a YouTube channel, Andy and Rem suggested that you say some things that are controversial and piss people off. And that's a good way to start a channel. That's not really my style, but I definitely feel like I could say a couple of things here just to help frame some of the conversations that are happening with the Gamer Grunts project, the new event style that's happening, trying to keep some of the comp light, and some of the conversations that have been happening since Age of Sigmar broke, that it is broken without a point system, a way to balance out armies. And so this video, BattleShock, Time to Talk, might be a series, or this might be the only video that comes of it. But I want to say a few things. I want to bust a couple of myths. So myth number one: there is balance in Warhammer, or any war game, and the fact is that there isn't. There never has been. There never will be. The place that you get balance when you're playing any kind of game is a mirror match, and chess is probably the best example of that. And even though chess is a good example of the mirror match and balance, because every unit sits on both sides, or chess piece is equal on both sides and in the exact positions, as soon as one player takes a pawn or any unit from another player, it's automatically imbalanced. So even in a mirror match, that balance only exists for the first few minutes. And here's the danger in thinking about this as balance system, that when we have points, that my 2,000 points are the same as your 2,000 points, or that my 10 points or 100 points are the same as yours. The danger is that it allows some people to rock up to the table, play their game, smash a lot of face, and then blame it on the codex, or blame it on the game developer that the game wasn't fun, that the game didn't do what they wanted it to do. And it allows people to hide behind points. And that's not to say, creating those big broken lists isn't fun for some people. But it doesn't help us build the game, build the community, create great experiences. And your skill is different than my skill. I'm not a great gamer. I'm not really good at it. I don't play enough games to get into it, and I don't know that I have the mind to break down all the possibilities the way other people do. I try. I have fun in my capacity, but there's not balance here. And striving for balance and putting balance as the goal distracts us from other things that are going to help us build this community. So I think myth number one: there is no balance. Stop talking about balance. We've got to figure out how to make, how to change our thinking to have a better, better experiences in all the games that we play. Because even in Infinity or War Machine Hordes, people smash other people's faces. They don't create balanced systems. And I think, Kings of War, somewhat I've heard, has this kind of mirror match kind of mentality, that the differences between armies are minimal, but it still doesn't mean that there's balance. Now, myth number two: part of what we're trying to do with balance is create a value for each model or in each unit. And myth number two is that the stats alone can't determine the value of a model or unit. These models and units don't exist in vacuums, but our point systems do. Our pool choices and all those things, they do exist in a vacuum, and they primarily skew towards one unit being able to smash the face of another unit, or one model being able to, kill another model more efficiently. But that's not the only value that units bring to a game of Age of Sigmar or other games. It's similar to a football team. Now, I don't watch football, but I know enough about it to know that in a football team, there are many players that play different roles. There's big, tough, giants of men that sit in the line and try and keep the other big, giant men from crossing the line. There's a quarterback who's just really agile and good at throwing a ball in a very particular place every single play. And then there's guys that can run really fast, change the direction, all that kind of stuff. And there's many more. I don't know all of them. But but you can't play a game without them, and you can't say that one is more valuable than the other in a vacuum. You need all of them to come and play. But it's in the situation where those values are really determined, right? You can have a game where your quarterback is the star, another game where your linemen are the stars, or your running back. It all depends on the team you're playing, the weather for the day, how good they're feeling. And the same goes to our models and our units in Age of Sigmar and other games. The units gain value from the scenarios that they're in. Now, because we were used to playing battle line, then maybe smashing face seemed like the best measure of a model. But even towards the end of 8th, you saw that units that could move fast, were often better suited to winning a game than models that could smash face, because if I can't catch you, I can't hit you. So pointing them differently towards the end of 8th wasn't possible, because these are static. They were static codexes. Those point values don't change. Movement, resilience, damage output, the ability to take up space on a board and to block lanes of movement and move around terrain in different ways. Tons of different values that our models and units have, but it's determined in the scenario. And I think there are a few people, the Gamer Grunts definitely mentioned that as a focus of what they were doing. The Holy Hammer GT, Herner has mentioned that scenarios could be the only comp you need. Create the scenario and then force people to build based on that to determine what that value is, right? Myth number 3, that 2 non-friends can't come up with a game that they enjoy playing. And I don't think this is necessarily about balance, even though we keep using the term balance. But I'll use my own experience. I started just in 8th edition with Ogres. And I'm listening to podcasts and such, and I think there was maybe 1 or 2 tournaments that, over the last couple of years that Ogres won, to my knowledge. And they weren't a high-tier power army, but in the right hands, they could do really good work. But in a local meta, Ogres got a bad rap for their gut star, because people didn't like playing it. It wasn't fun, and it could smash face if you didn't know how to deal with it. And so I found out pretty quickly that Ogres weren't a favored army or a fun army that people enjoyed playing, and so I had to work to create lists that people hadn't seen or that could be really fun. I had to work really hard to create lists that people hadn't seen or that were a little bit different or a lot of fun to play against, to counteract kind of the negative meta. And so, I was an absolutely new player, but I could pick up on that, and I could change that thinking and try and work with how other people like to play. And once in a while, I could get out. I never played the Gut Star, but it was even like if I put 8 or 9 together, it seemed like, oh, that's a Gut Star, but oftentimes I would lose to a bad break and a break test and get run down. So anyway, so there was a couple of examples of people talking about that. Russ Veal on the latest Minnesota Facehammer, Minnesota 11, was talking about a hobbyist who came to his local game club with a 40K list, and it was ended up being this Uber list that just destroyed the other guy, and he just got razzed about it. But he wasn't there a lot. He didn't talk to them a lot. But it was in the point system. It should have been balanced. But the truth is that we as communities have been. That's what meta is. Creating ways for these games to be fun, and just non-verbally or sometimes through kind of not direct communication, telling people what we like to play against and what we don't. So we have been doing it, and we need to do more of it. And the other thing to think about when it comes, about 2 strangers or non-friends rocking up to the table, at that point where you're about to play the game is when you have the most leverage in negotiating what that game's going to be, right? You've both been anticipating this game for the whole day, maybe the week, a month, and everything's at stake here, and being able to kind of fulfill that need to play. And so that's the time to say, hey, what kind of game do you want to play? What are you interested in? And if you really want to play a certain type of game, that's the time to do it, because the person, they're not likely to walk away unless you're going to show up with a terrible game. Like if I know at the end of this I'm going to have a bad game because of what I see across the table, I'm not going to want to play, and that's going to make me, that's where I'm going to have the most incentive to walk away. So, two people can come up with balance. And this kind of leads me to myth number 4. The Age of Sigmar can't teach us something new. Since it came out, we've been feeling like we had to fill a hole in Age of Sigmar, that we've had to fix it. Because it didn't include some of the components that we've been biased to, that we're used to, that we've, have become our safety blankets, not to be too bombastic about it. And it's great that we've come up with, I love that people are creating things to find that fun. And, the comp systems aren't bad things, other than if they keep us from exploring some of the things that Age of Sigmar may be teaching us about being better gamers. Because if we operated the way that the 4-page rules showed us, we would be learning new skills in negotiating the fun of the game, looking for scenarios to play. And I know scenarios don't exist in the 4-page, but in the whole part of Age of Sigmar, that what if we were better at coming up with scenarios, of finding scenarios that were going to be more enjoyable for the different armies that were being played. I remember, I've heard people talk about 7th edition, where one of the best skills for winning the game was to be able to judge distance without a ruler, right? That you had to guess it, that you had to be able to just eyeball it. And that was a skill that people valued and learned and grew on in order to be successful. Now, if we, as a community, or those who stuck around for 7th, can take on the practice and building of such a skill as that, why can't we take on and build such a skill as negotiating a good game with our competitor, with the person across the table? Comp has been fun. I've been using it a lot in my in my games. Just again, that it fits what I was used to playing. But I'll also say that it has stopped some of the conversation around other ways to do what other ways to come up to a table and have a game. Not to mention that if, as a hobby, war gamers, we built these skills of negotiating fun, of ensuring that the person across the table is having fun. If we build these, we're going to build the hobby. We're going to grow our community. And those are better skills for, beyond wargaming, right? In your work, every single day you have to negotiate with other people for your work and their work, and coordinating their time. And we all need to be better at that regardless. Our games shouldn't be any different. And so I guess that concludes my first BattleShock Time to Talk. I just challenge everybody to go back to the core set, play some of the rules as written, look at MC1 Gamer's posts recently. He's been talking about that as well, going back to the original. And instead of looking at Age of Sigmar as, a puppy with a busted leg, maybe the designers at Games Workshop thought that they could teach us something different. And in the first months that Age of Sigmar was out, we were all talking about the importance of having fun, the importance of creating a good, competitive and an enjoyable game. And to have every gamer of every game system talking about that at once for that short period of time is pretty amazing. So I think we should get back to that. So I encourage you to share your thoughts, either with videos or in support of different explorations of the game. I know that people out here are creating new things, new content all the time. Test it, play it, give feedback, share your thoughts, make the community better, make this game better, not by necessarily changing it, but by letting it change you a little bit before you kind of take your hammer and nail and build something completely different out of it. So thanks for watching.